Greetings and welcome to another episode of Soul Citizen. This is episode 110. 110 of these. Today we are discussing. Today we are discussing the Starjump Station Fleetviewer. Let me say that again. Starjump Station Fleetviewer. And today we're joined by our guest, Starjump GRIM. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. It's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah. And also joined today by GriffinGamingRPG. He's not going to say much today, but he's here just in case, just in case, so I go off the rail or something like that. But Starjump GRIM, tell us something about yourself. Like, what do you do and how do people find you and stuff?
Yeah, well, people originally know me from the Star Citizen fan cinematics I did, starting with the Drake and then the Aegis and stuff.
Thanks for the subscription.
We're doing other projects now, but we have a YouTube channel. I think you can just type Starjump and Star Citizen and we'll pop up. But that's probably one of the best places to find our content. But then we also have a Discord that you can join that we're very active in and have a growing community.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank you for joining us. Like I said, today we're discussing the Starjump Fleetviewer, but we have an intro video. I think we want to get to that, and then
I completely forgot. Sorry.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So obviously that can add up over time. I think total was like yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
People will be able to find us at Hangar.Link, and I just wanted to say that. Please continue.
Yeah. So Hangar.Link, which was a website created by Starlet, who does Starjump along with me and Starjump Ender. There's a couple of us in this. I handled all the visuals and a lot of the technical work in terms of like how the ships were going to be rendered and what perspectives and angles and how to get all that right. And I worked with a couple of collaborators to help push through all the ships because it was too many for me to handle on my own. And then Starlet is handling all the back end. So it's been kind of a big team effort. Yeah.
And thank you for the subscription, Dog. Thank you for the Prime subscription, Citizen Shenanigans. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So before we get more into the Fleetviewer from Starjump, let's talk about some of the Fleetviewer history. Like starting off with the Fleet Yard fleetyard.net/ships, and this is one of the earliest ones that we could find. And so, yeah, were any of these like inspirations for you, or do you take any inspiration from the old ones, or you just say, start from scratch or what have you?
Yeah, no, they were all inspirations, to be totally honest with you. And some people out there have really kind of peg some of these, whether it's Starship 42 or any of the others, Fleet Yards or whatever, and said, hey, yours is going to be better than theirs, or theirs is better than yours, whatever. And we really didn't take that approach. It's more of they kind of complement each other, because all these fleet viewers, they kind of do something a little bit differently. Yes, they visualize your ships, but that's really like, that's just like the base. That's kind of the surface level of what they do. They all do other stuff, and they do it a little bit differently. So they kind of complement each other really nicely.
Hey, thanks for the subscription.
Oh, thank you for the subscription.
Synchronous, thank you. 5 gift subscriptions. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And Mad Style. Oh my God. Thank you, Mad Style. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a bit. Yeah,
thank you, Mad
Can I ask a question to you, Grim? And guys, forgive me, I had dental surgery, so that's why you're hearing me talk weird. You did mention that there's like every one of these kind of has their own suite. By the way, I do want to highlight the fact that these are all luxury Origin ships on the screen, by the way. But did you kind of in some way or other, were you influenced by it, or did you kind of actually try to create something different without being too much influenced by what you saw in these other fleet viewers?
Yeah, well, they were inspirational from the fact that the one thing I really liked about Fleet Yards, and especially Starship 42, which are the two I'm most familiar with, although I know there's another one. I think there's even been some others that have been tried to get off the ground, is that I do like that they give everyone a reason to they give everyone sort of like a campfire to huddle around, and that these like fleet picks, but like I said, all these kind of like dive into something into these ships in a little bit different way. I know Fleet Yards kind of dives into a lot of the ship specifics in a big way. Starship 42, their big kind of unique aspect to their fleet viewer is the fact that it's got a dynamic camera and you can zoom around and start, and really kind of pose and position ships how you want, which is really, really cool. And then obviously we will have our own kind of unique bend, which is, we're trying to show the ships in the highest possible fidelity that we can show them. So while we were inspired by the fact that they were doing something that the community can all like get around and like interact with, we do have different plans for ours going forward. We want to add a layer of customability, if that's even a word, to some of this that the others don't provide. And then in the future, while I can't talk much about it now, we have another project that will tie in to this Fleet Viewer thing and use all of its visuals. That'll be a much bigger org level kind of fleet planning thing. It's not going to be just a Fleet Viewer or anything. It's going to be a much bigger kind of end goal there. And the visuals are the hardest part of that. So that's why this, the Starjump Fleet Viewer is like stage 1. And then that next project is going to be stage 2, and once we get
nice. Can we stop 1 second and give a shout out? Y'all should give some love to Mad Style. 20 gift subs. If you've been blessed with that, you all give him a shout of some love, send him a heart. Thank you guys for this synchro. Thank you for yours again for 5. You guys put us on the hype train right at the beginning of the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it was funny because it was funny because I reacted to it, and then I thought Griffin reacted to it. It was like a chain reaction down the line almost. So
Grim,
thank you everybody for that.
Yeah, Grim, you're making me think about what Disney wanted to do with Batu and then their hotel, right? They they start out with one thing, and they want to make something else, but yours is going to be much more successful than Batu. So
I'm quite sure. So this is my fleet that base. So
which is the one I don't have a lot of experience with. I haven't.
I don't know this one myself.
Much.
Yeah, we've seen these images before, though. Those metal images, but that's where they come from. Is my fleet. They've been around for a little while too.
And the hardest thing about all this that most of the fleet viewers have, and this is something that most of them have in common, like Fleet Yards and My Fleet, and to some degree Starship 42, is that they all have to use either a blanket shader or texture, like this kind of metal texture or grayscale or something. In the case of Starship 42, Lunfacy over there has been making some big pushes into getting at least the correct color tints and stuff added to the ships to where they look a lot more closer to their concept or in-game look. But they still obviously have to lack a lot of detail because they're not leaning into fidelity; they're leaning into other things. So, you know, that is one place that I thought that we could really do a kind of a big leap forward. You know, for people. But you know, on the flip side, we may not have the technical data for each ship like Fleet Yards has, or we may not have a fully dynamic camera like Starship 42 has, which is why I really stress that these different fleet viewers, they're very complementary. I think you can use them all. And, you know, Lunfacy at Starship 42, he's actually been a big supporter of what we're doing, and us to him. And I think we've actually even shared some 3D models and stuff. So there's no rivalry there or anything like that. I use Starship 42 all the time. There's definitely no rivalry there or no attempt to like kind of push past someone else's project. It's really just going to be another way of visualizing your fleets that may be a little different than something else, and you can kind of pick and choose which one is best for what you're trying to visualize. So
And that's what I love about the community, because it's more collaborative than competition or rivalry, as you put it. Then they may come up with the idea and share it with you, or you may come up with the idea and share it with them. And I love that about this community. So yeah, speaking of Starship 42, we could share a few images from them. That's the basic model. That's they actually have They actually have a version 2 coming out too. I think this is the first one now.
And I do want to ask a question, Grim, if you can talk a little bit later. Each one of these sites has a different way of their interface of how you input. I think on on My Fleet, you have to put in a code in your bio profile, and then it pulls. Fleet 42 goes in and has you copy the page of everything in your hangar and put it in, and maybe later you can tell us how you're going to do that as well. But we'll look at some more images here. That I think is just kind of like the bland, plain image that you get from them. This is their colorized version.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, even what you're seeing here with the way Lunfacy puts these ships in with their kind of textures on the parts of the ship that they're supposed to be on. So glass is where glass should be, and the white parts of the ship are white, and the black parts of the ship are black, and whatever tertiary colors there. That is a lot of work. I mean, the stuff they're doing, even to that degree, is a lot of work, because the ships don't, especially concept ships, in-game ships are one thing, but concept ships like, the Starliner or Endeavor or something, they don't come with those texture tags applied. They don't exist anymore. So that has to be created. While we can pull the model from the RSI website, the model doesn't come over with textures applied or anything. So that's work that they have to do for this.
Manually,
so
guys, by the way, if you have any questions, use the little eclipse or ellipse down there next to chat. Put that in, and Grim will be happy to answer those for you a little bit later on, because we know you may have questions about their site versus others. There's one more image I think we've got here from theirs, and that's this one here, overhead, but with descriptions of the different ships as well.
And I think they have another toggle that you can do on their website to visualize, for example, how much cargo. It's like a little box graph, which is kind of cool.
And they also have one for crew members.
Yes.
Very cool.
So my question is, so you obviously put a lot of work into your fleet. Has CIG reached out to you, or you reached out to CIG for any support or help, or any requests or anything like that?
No, I mean, there's been some CIG people that have reached out to say, we like it and it's awesome, and offer their support. They've done that during, when I've worked on cinematics as well. I think when one of the CIG employees saw my version of the jump gates and the Aegis cinematic, they reached out and said, "Oh, it looks really cool. It's really close to the one we created for the game," and they support in that way, and the other way CIG supports is that they're obviously just very cool about fan made projects and fan made efforts, especially if you're following the rules that you should be following with them and not trying to benefit from them. And just I think they're really cool on any project that is very community focused and allows the fans to get excited about this stuff. I think CIG is one of the best companies to support those efforts. But I think the real thanks for all this, so I did probably about 60% of the ships and all of the concept ships, so the ships where there aren't models for them. And then I had 2 or 3 collaborators that pushed through the rest of the ships, with one of those collaborators pushing through a majority of them. And without their work, I wouldn't have been able to get through all this, because we are officially done with the ships, by the way. We've gotten through all of them. Every ship is complete, even the newest ships like the Legionnaire and everything. Every ship is complete. We're literally just working on back end right now, which we had already prototyped out, so we had built a back end. So functionally, the Fleet Viewer works. What we're working on now before a version 1 release is figuring out, and testing, different ways of selecting ships or moving ships and other features like that. But the bulk of the work is complete, and it never would have been done without these collaborators. So.
Yeah, I remember you were trying to get these out before Invictus Week, and you were really crunching really, really hard.
And as you know, you're constantly balancing it with like real life. So, in around this time of the year is when I do a lot of traveling generally. So I ended up saying, well, even if we don't release around Invictus, that might be good, because sometimes it's hard to get attention when like a big CIG event's going on. So I said, well, why don't we make an internal goal with our team to get through all the ships by Invictus. And I had actually told Starlet, I said, I will have all these ships done to you at the end of April. Actually, before Invictus, I said, I'll have them all. We ended up finishing every single ship, I think the first week of May. And then as soon as CIG announced the Mule and the Legionnaire, the Mule and the Legionnaire, we executed those really quick, got those done, which took about a day. And then we were pencils down, completely done. And then all that data had to be pushed to Starlet. And that's not as easy as it sounds. The data, first off, it's a ton of data. It's gigs upon gigs upon gigs of data. And it had to be, naming conventions had to be on point. We had to create an entire spreadsheet of every ship and how long it is, and meters and other specifics. So there's a lot of organization that goes on in the back end.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, so a random question. Like, so the Hull A just recently, or was one of the last to come out before the Mule. Did you have to retouch the Hull A for the Fleet Viewer, or did you? Or was that pretty much done?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with the Hull A, we'd actually done the Hull A already. It was finished using the concept model from the original concept, much like the Hull B and the Hull C and D and E are. As soon as the Hull A came out, though, we redid it from scratch. So it is using the correct in-game model, which took about a day. And that's going to be how we do any concept ship going forward, for anyone who knows, because there's going to be people that, and I've been asked this question a lot. Well, why would you put so much effort into the Starliner when you know later this year they're reconcepting it? Well, our goal is to get it into the Fleet Viewer as is for now, and as soon as CIG updates it, we will update it. And it doesn't take long to turn the ships around when they do update them. It takes about a half a day, so it's not a lot of work or anything. Ships like the Legionnaire, the new ship, that only took about 3 hours to do. So you
gain the experience of knowing what that ship is like anyway. So that gives you more confidence and make it easier later on, I bet.
Yeah, and we're building up like a shaders or texture material kind of repository now that can be easily applied. One of the collaborators that has pushed through an absolute metric ton of ships, they're using a custom written software package they developed along with some others in the community to do these ships in. So the funny thing is the ships don't even have the same pipeline. The ships I create come from one pipeline. Flight ready ships are generally coming from a different pipeline. So there's a lot of ways these ships kind of filter down. And that was even a challenge because we had to make sure that they all look consistent at the end. You know what I mean? Because it's funny, you could take something like the Legata 600i, the executive, edition one that's black and gold. You may not realize this, but there's a lot of ways to represent black and gold on a ship. You know what I mean? In like one person rendering it out and then another person rendering it out, it can look totally different. So there's actually some ships like that where I would do a version and I would ask my collaborators, hey, can you push out a version too? Because I'm unsure about mine. And they'd push out a version and they'd look wildly different. So I think even some ships, I think the 600i executive is one of those. You're going to be able to spawn multiple variants. You'll be able to spawn the GRIM version or, a collaborator version. So
you never reached out to the community and asked for someone who actually has one to so you can.
Well, in some regards we did, and we would look at the ships and stuff, but sometimes it was minor things. You would have the textures right, but like depending on the lighting and stuff, it looked different, and it was kind of hard to judge. Should the light be warm? Should it be cool? Because the ships can, as you know, in Star Citizen, even if you have a ship that's chrome, like a prospect or something, depending on the environment and the lighting you're in, it can look wildly different. And we dealt with that a little bit too. So
if you don't mind, Grim, if we could, we're going to change from this. Yeah. When we get through, maybe you can give us a step of the process of just a brief of how you create the ships, how you get them here. Yeah. And then later we can talk about what are the features that we can expect, that are going to be coming from HangarLink, if that's okay. Let me start out with this one here. This is the one you sent.
Yeah, so this video was originally the video I used at the Beacon conference. That was, I think, May 28th over in Belgium. And it essentially shows like how something like the Legionnaire was done, which is where we will get a holo model. And in the case of new holo models like the Legionnaire, the Expanse, the Odyssey, and stuff like that, the holo models are decent. They're pretty good. We can work with them. But we have to go in, and what you're seeing here is I'm actually going in and selecting the polygons that are in the actual 3D mesh and creating texture tags essentially. And those texture tags will determine, what part is green, what part is red, what part is chrome, what part is, whatever, glass. You're essentially dictating what parts of the model are, is what material, and then applying those. So you'll see here, I'm kind of highlighting a decal and making sure all the stripes and livery stuff are painted out and labeled. That's important because when you pull a holo model, for example, from the RSI website, it doesn't have any of that data on it. That's why in fleet yards and stuff, it just shows up as a gray model, right? Or an all metal looking model. And that's specifically because they don't have these texture tags. So that is the hardest part of this, is creating the texture tags, because some of the ships are quite complicated. If you take a ship like the Endeavor and stuff, this process took like a week, you know what I mean, of just highlighting materials, labeling them, highlighting, labeling, smaller, it's not even smaller ships are easier than bigger ships, but certain manufacturers are easier than others, because certain manufacturers have a lot of like flat edges and stuff, and not a lot of like greeble, which is like 3D. So it's a word for, Drake can be difficult. Drake can be difficult. The other big problem is ships that have very early concept models that are really rough. So like a ship like the Polaris, the Crucible, any of that was extremely difficult because the ships, the holo models are so rough that they really won't hold up in Fleetviewer. So those ships actually had to have a ton of modeling work done to them. And then it goes even further, where the Endeavor, if you go to the RSI website and go to the Endeavor, it's got the Endeavor base model with no modules attached, right? So that's all we had. So to do all the modules, which we did do all the modules, we had to model all that from scratch. We actually got a modeler in South America to do all that work for us. And I'm sure CIG has that internally. Obviously, we don't have access to that, so we have to create that stuff for, on scratch, by scratch. And when we render things, it actually renders out multiple passes, and that's what you're seeing here, like a shadow pass, a specular. Yeah, and when those passes all render out, a single angle of the ship may be 10 renders, and then I have to take those renders and kind of sandwich them together to create the final composite. This little list you see coming up here on the side on the video, that was our status sheet for every ship in the game, and it got labeled green if it was done, yellow if it was in progress, red if it hadn't been started. Obviously, everything's green and done now. But, it was a big process because every single one of those ships had 4 angles, and for each one of those angles was 10 renders. You know what I mean? Sure. And those all, and then it's just a big process. It definitely took a lot of time. And some people may go, well, why didn't you just render it out as one pass? Some 3D artists may say, well, why didn't you just render it out as one pass, cut down on all the work? Well, the pipeline that had been set up for the cinematics I did was this pipeline, and that's what this FleetViewer project started from, was how do I take these cinematic ships and just create that level of fidelity with a FleetViewer. So I just had to keep the same pipeline. Unfortunately, it's a pipeline that requires a lot of work.
Yeah. So, if you don't mind me asking, one question I'm not sure if you can answer. One, I know you can. On an average, let's go back to that Legionnaire.
Yeah.
How many hours does it take for you to get that from when you pull it from the RSI site to completion? And then, I've never heard this question answered before. How long would it take CIG when they create a ship like that, when they're going from scratch? I mean, from concept to delivery. What is the estimated time for you think for a ship like that when an artist is working, and a developer, an engineer is working on it?
Well, I think, for me, obviously I'm working from a pre-existing model, right?
Right.
Which is thankfully that CIG pushes those out. So, a lot of work is done in terms of the mesh, right? So that's great. For me to take a good holo model, and I say a good one, meaning one that's been created in the last 2 years, probably. So that would be ships like, whether it's the Kraken or the Legionnaire or the Expanse or something. By the time I get the model in my hand, and then do all the texture work, all the rendering and stuff, I can have it delivered to Starlit in probably about 2 hours. Now, if it's a ship that's an old holo model like the Polaris or the Endeavor, which luckily we're not going to have any more of those because CIG's holo model game is, much more on point now. But a lot of those old models, they require a significant amount of work, like sometimes weeks. The Polaris, for example, was a ship that required much more work than it should have because the holo model was just terrible. Now for CIG, their flight ready ship production pipeline is a whole different thing that includes so much work. I totally believe John Crew when he says it takes a year or 2 years to push out these bigger ships. But where I think I can estimate it maybe a little bit is when they're creating concept models for ships, when they're in that initial, Paul Jones concepting phase. I think that they can probably create a lot of ships inside of a week. Like, let's say if they're concepting out the Legionnaire, they can probably create, I don't know, 30, 40 different ship models that we'll never see. We're never going to see those because they're early models and kit bashes. They probably, a good 3D artist, they could pound through these. I mean, they could probably create 5 a day, 10 a day, full models. Now they're kit bashes, they're simple. They're not, these aren't game ready models, but, they've got some really, really talented artists at CIG. So sure they could push through it really quickly, but obviously a flight ready ship is not just an exterior. It's a lot of other things. And not only is it a really complex interior, but it's also systems upon systems upon systems layered into that mesh. So, I couldn't even begin. I totally think John Crew's estimates for how long ships are, required to take are probably accurate.
So, random question. So, when you did the Odyssey and all the work that you went from for the concept to putting into the Fleetviewer, did it seem like a character killer to you?
Well, I asked Paul Jones this when I spoke to him, and the funny thing about comments like that is, while those comments are weird, sometimes come from CIG employees, I think we all kind of do that a little bit with our ships. We kind of, we buy one over the other because we think it's the better one, when in actuality, it's so funny. I'll see people going back and forth on the stats of a ship, and to me, it's really funny people do that, because I'm like, this ship is going to be adjusted 500 times before we hit beta. You know what I mean? And but the only thing that we as players right now really have to show off are ships. Now, when things like reputation become a bigger deal, and progress and all that, and whatever else, people will be able to show that off as like their devotion to the game. But let's be honest, right now, in terms of what we have access to, your fleet is kind of your badge to stand behind, or at least it kind of shows off your future ambitions in the game. And in that regard, I can see why some people say, oh, it's a character killer, or someone will throw shade on another ship or hype their ship up over another one. I actually kind of like that
I'm going to bring some
competition.
clarity here. We did not say that. Fastcart did, okay? Because Disco made it very clear at the Bar Citizen that was Paul Jones talking off the top of his head about himself. So we are not pushing that carrot killer stuff.
But here's what I will say to that, though. I sympathize with Paul Jones, because as an artist, I'm sure he and the rest of the CIG concept team does this. You very, very often as an artist, when you create something, whether it's a painting or whatever, even a piece of advertisement, you like what you created, and then you get a new project.
You feel a sense of pride about it.
Yeah, and then the newest one you're doing is usually the one you're the most proud of, right? Because it's the newest one you did. It's your most recent challenge. So it totally makes sense that Paul would say that when they were doing that Odyssey, reveal, because it was, the character was, from his perspective as a concept artist, I imagine the character was several years of hell trying to get that shit. We all know it's concept journey that the character had, and I think as an artist, whenever you work on something new, it is your favorite. You know what I mean? And I'm sure Paul's already on a new favorite ship. And what's probably something that we don't know about yet.
Absolutely. So. Let me do a quick brief here. Olu of X, please give us a shout. I sent you a message in Twitch, because you have a giveaway that's supposed to be coming to you, and we need your info. So please take a look at that message when you get a chance.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just playing around because
that's all right. I'm letting you take the brunt for that. That's all yours this time.
Yeah.
But
opinions and statements of fastcart are not representative of social citizens. Okay.
But I will say this, because you actually do bring up a good point, because you see this all the time. I actually saw this on the concierge forums just the other day, a thread, and you see these threads all the time where someone will go, I'm sick of fleet pics. Why are people posting these? I don't want to see them anymore, or whatever. And then you have the people that jump into the thread defending them, and then some that say they hate them and stuff. My view on it is again, until Star Citizen gets other things that we can show as our badges of pride, ships are kind of the thing, right now. And again, that will change in the future. You're going to be able to show off progress, or, how many days you've been out in the verse without going to
some people wear merchandise like clothing. Our merchandise in the game is our ship. So we do have clothing, but
exactly.
that's a way less extent.
And that even filters into like ship manufacturer, ship brands, like Origin, like people are big Origin fans or big RSI fans or big Drake fans. It's there's like a healthy competition there that's kind of fun. I actually really like that aspect of the game. So
cool.
Or the meta game or whatever you want to refer to it.
Okay. Well, listen, why don't we start taking a look at some of the work that you guys have done? Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about what we can expect from HangarLink, features, anything you want to share.
Yeah. So the video that we'll kind of play in the background here is just, I've put out previews of ships and stuff, have they been completed and stuff over the past year that we've been in development. And I kind of threw together this video that just cycles through everything that's in Fleetviewer. So it's a very long video. It'll play in the background, but you may see your favorite ship pop up. But so Hangar.Link is obviously the website this will be hosted at. Me and Starlet are in discussions on HangarLink right now, which was sort of her creation, was started as a way to focus on CCU calculate, like it's a CCU calculator, and to find out how to get people, CCU'd on ships and keep the cost as low as, and find you discounts and stuff. But I think she and all of us at Starjump really have much bigger plans for what HangarLink can be. So once Fleetviewer gets integrated into it, you may actually see HangarLink kind of switch its priority. Like, I don't think it'll just be like a place to go for CCU calculations anymore. It might just become like a Star Citizen hub at that point, where there's going to be multiple things hosted on it. The Fleetviewer being, one of the big ones, I'm sure. So in terms of like actual features, because the CCU calculator is already like present and functioning and a really useful tool on Hangar.Link now, obviously you can expect some tie-in with the Fleetviewer there, right? You're going to be, the Fleetviewer will act as visuals for that CCU calculator. You will have the ability to import your hangars directly from the RSI website into the Fleetviewer. So, whatever your current hangars are will come over. That won't be a problem. But just like Starship 42 and the others, you're going to be able to build them from scratch as well. You won't have to just import from your hangar.
Can I ask something about that real quick? So some people may have security worries when it comes to that. How do you address those concerns, or what do you say about that?
So it uses the standard like JSON file that that all the other Fleetviewers use, and the other Fleetviewers that pull data from your hangar. It's data that, to best of my knowledge, and Starlet could probably answer this a lot better than I could, it's data that contained in that JSON file. It's none of it's account data or anything like that, because that can't be accessed from CIG's site.
When you're pulling from your account, not using a file, that's what I meant.
Well, when you're pulling from, you mean like when you're pulling from your account directly?
Yeah.
So I think it just pulls that JSON file, and then when you import that into Fleetviewer, it'll just load the ships, because it doesn't contain any of the account information. It's just the ships, the ship tags in there. But you will obviously be able to access or build a fleet totally from scratch, just with a UI, and we're kind of developing the UI now. And then we have some other things we're doing to kind of create, like, so in Starship 42 you can visualize crew count or cargo. We're looking at that as well. Like, we actually have little people that can be spawned next to the ships to kind of give a sense of scale. We also are doing stuff like allowing people to spawn like Easter egg ships, things that have been kind of inside jokes from CIG. You're seeing the Endeavor here. We will have in the first version, we'll have the Endeavor in like 5 different versions, like Hope class, Olympic class, Discovery class, and stuff. But in version 2, we are building an Endeavor builder. So you're going to be able to like assemble your own Endeavor.
Oh, I want that.
Yeah, and that'll be out of all the modules. We already have all the modules done. So it's really just, we're working on the system that will layer those into whatever you want to build. So if you want to build an Endeavor that's got the hangar module and then a service module, and as long as it fits those original metrics CIG laid out in terms of the module size, then it'll work. So we're working on that.
Endeavor. Yep. We're looking about Endeavor. Are you using using the CIG measurement that they had on the chip page, or did you fiddle with it a bit for the Fleetviewer?
Yeah, so we are the Endeavor is unique in that we're still under discussions with that.
My bad.
What I want to do is offer it in 2 scales for that. One would be a 200-meter version, which is the current metric for it. We all know that's wrong, but that's what CIG says currently. And I would like to stick to that as much as possible. And the reason is because I don't want people coming after us saying, it's going to be bigger, it's going to be smaller. I would rather just be able to answer it, well, this is what CIG has now. Whether that's wrong or right or whatever, it doesn't matter. That's what they have. But what I think we will do on the Endeavor, because it's probably the one ship we know will grow substantially, is I think we're going to make a version that is, I don't have my notes up, but I think we're going to make a version that is somewhere in like the 300-meter range. Which when we did some tests on scale and stuff, that felt realistic for the Endeavor. I know some people have said the Endeavor is going to be 500-600 meters long. I actually believe CIG when I don't think there's going to be any ship longer than the Javelin, which is 480 meters long. John Crew even recently said that will be the largest player-owned ship. And I believe that. If anything, I see CIG switching, or I see CIG kind of maybe pushing away from super large ships going forward. I think we're going to start seeing a little bit of a change where the biggest ships that we start seeing are going to be from the 150 to 200 meter range. I think we won't see too many like Idrises and Krakens going forward in terms of scale and crew size. I could be wrong. I'm just basing that off a couple of clues, but
I got a question for you.
Yep.
Are you going to, and this is a request from the community in regard to ships, will you keep legacy ships? In other words, original version of the Van Duel versus the newer version of the Van Duel?
Or the Mustang.
Or well, yeah, we could go back to that. Those are reworks. And I guess those would be reworks too, but I'm just kind of curious if you're going to maintain both or just keep the most recent.
Yeah, I think our approach on that is starting from now, we will honor the legacy ships. So we won't have like the original Cutlass or the original Mustangs because we just don't have access to those models. But like the Van Duel ships, the ones that we have in there currently are those will be in there. And then when we eventually in the future get access to the new Van Duel ships, we'll have those in there and you can toggle between the two. Yeah. Same thing with ships like the Crucible, which we know is, just got added to the roadmap. We'll probably still keep ours just as a cool like legacy token. Bringing up the Crucible, one thing we did on the Crucible, when it pops up, you'll probably see this. There's certain ships, Crucible being one, that you're actually going to be able to display in the Fleet Viewer in 3 different states. You're going to be able to spawn it with its hangar module on but closed. You'll be able to spawn it with its hangar module on but open, so you can see like a Gladius in there. Or you'll be able to spawn it with no hangar module and just ready for like capital ship repair. You'll also be able to spawn that ship reversed or forward facing because it can fly in both directions. Some ships will have alternate liveries. So here I think we have the P-72 and the 52. We also have the Emerald version. Here's the Pegasus carrier. We do have some specialty ships like that. There's the War Thunder concierge paint for the Perseus. So some ships will have like special paint liveries on launch. We'll probably add more of those as we go. So yeah.
And one other question. Well, this is a weird question.
Yeah.
Which ship out of all these here was surprisingly easy? And which one was the one that was surprisingly difficult to do?
Yeah,
I like that one.
Well, the surprisingly easy one would, to be totally honest with you, would probably be any ship that's flight ready, because there's so much there. However, if I had to pick one ship that I was just like, yeah, that was finished in like an hour, not an issue, it would probably be like, it would probably be like the Santaki Eye, believe it or not. It's a simple ship in a few different like 3D, in a few different like polygon mesh, ways. It's a very simple ship. So that was one that was created very, very easily, very, very quick. The hardest ship in terms of like time and effort was definitely the Crucible, but it was definitely a toss-up between the Polaris, Crucible, and Endeavor. But the Crucible definitely takes the cake because it was in a really, really rough state, Like it's hollow model. So, and we really wanted to be able to open it up and to see inside that hangar and have those like repair arms and stuff there. So, yeah, that was probably the hardest one.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got some questions for you we can jump into, and we can come back to this. Fastcart, why don't we go ahead and hit some of these questions? We got some good ones here. And by the way, people in chat are very excited about this, Grim. They're like, can't wait. So great, congratulations.
Oh,
man.
no,
Appreciate it.
The primary phrase I've been seeing is Gib. And also, go ahead,
Fast.
I will say, if anyone's planning to start Citizen drinking game tonight, I'm pretty sure y'all are having fun tonight. Because they're saying immersion, everything tonight. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, obviously, the number one question I get asked, it's kind of a joke, obviously, at this point, is when is this releasing? When is this releasing? I originally kind of thought maybe we get it out around Invictus or a little after. We didn't do that, but mostly not because of progress reasons, but because of personal life, reasons. But what I think everyone could probably take from that is that we're extremely close. Starlet does, have some back end and programming and integration work that she still has to do. But once we get that done, our goal is to release it. Now, it probably will release as a, version 1.0, but you can, a safe bet would be to think that of that first 3 months of release as being like the beta. And, we'll be taking, we'll have our own kind of little issue council for problems with it as we get it updated. So yeah, our goal, I want to have it out this summer. Let's put it that way. I want it to be sometime this summer. It's out. So yeah.
Cool. So for our first question, it's not a question, but it's from Gomat with ATL. He just said Gib, just like I said. That was the primary thing that's been going on in Twitch chat. The Pot asked, how long has the project been worked on? When did you start?
We started in I did the first thing I created was a PDF to show how it would function, and it was all just drawings and illustration. There was no actual work done. And I created that in March of 2021. And the first mock-up I did with 3 ships just to see if it was worth going down this project's path. I posted to Spectrum in April 2021. So we're now in June. So it's been a year. It's been 14 months. Yeah.
And was part of that because of the COVID slowdown? You didn't have much. To do, and so you just started to do this, or did this something germinating in your mind?
I kind of got fortunate in my day job. I ended up with some spare time. I had some new team members come on board, so my job wasn't as hectic, and it felt like something I could handle. Now that quickly changed when I got reminded on how many damn ships there are in this game, and not only how many ships, but how many variants. Because I would be sitting around going, okay, it's time to do the Aurora, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, there's a whole bunch of Auroras. You know what I mean?
5 or 6.
Yeah, and then it just sort of started ballooning. You know what I mean? So again, thank God for collaborators. So.
All right, cool. So that was from Pot and Space. The next question is again from Pot and Space: is how long did it take you to put in a new concept into the ship viewer? A new concept ship.
Yeah, so like a new concept ship. So once I get the model, how long does it take? How long will it take to update Fleetviewer? Possibly in the future, I think is what that question will be. So like, Fleetviewer's live. It's IAE later this year. A new ship gets announced. How quick will it be represented? It will definitely be the day of announcement. And probably what I will say we'll probably do is, let's say if IE is 5 days, and let's say they announce a ship on day 1, and then another ship is announced 3 days later, we'll probably get the ship done in a day, but we probably won't update Fleetviewer until all ships from that event have been announced. But it'll be pretty quick, within a matter of a day or 2 days. So yeah.
I see Griffin is teasing me right now with the president banning with me for further on screen. So thank you for that.
No,
So,
I actually had a question about it, to be honest with you.
Okay, go ahead.
Grim, I know that recently CIG has been really highlighting this and giving us drops. Yep. Do you update every time that happens, or do you kind of wait? Because like Alien Week's next week, and they got this big 23 minutes of this thing next week they're talking about. Yeah. Will there be an update after that?
Oh, yeah. So, our Merchantman is kind of, it's actually one of the ships I would say is the least finished, but we got it to a point that I thought this looks good enough for Fleetviewer. The reason we didn't take it any further than what we probably should have was that the Merchantman from the last concept image that Paul Jones shared at CitizenCon last year has a lot of really complicated textures on it. Not only there's like gold filigree, which ours has, but it has like pearlescence and other stuff that was really complicated and kind of a weird glowy blue and stuff. So we took it to a point that we thought, hey, this holds up in a Fleetviewer image. We know they're updating it, so we will update it at major milestones. So if Alien Week shows a big push on the exterior and that has taken the Merchantman further, I'll update it. If the exterior kind of mostly looks the same, maybe there's a few changes, but it's mostly the same, I might leave it until IAE where there's a bigger change there. One thing I will say about the ships in the Fleetviewer, especially concept ships, is that and this is something I always said during the cinematics, is that I'm not trying to visualize the ship necessarily how it is in game. I'm just trying to visualize the ship from a concept fantasy standpoint. You know what I mean? You're supposed to get it's supposed to sell the fantasy of the ship, not necessarily exactly how it is in version 3.18 of the game. You know what I mean? So, so there's some ships like on the concept ships, people naturally will look at the Starliner and go, well, why did you do it? Because we all know it's going to be reconcepted. And it's like, yes, of course. And I'll update it at that point. But for now, this is what we know the Starliner as, So.
Yeah, I think people just worry that some of you, or you specifically, may get burnt out from doing so many sets or having to just do it over and over again. So I think part of it is concern, and some of it is just like you don't want to waste the effort. So I think it's just the community trying to look out for you.
And yeah, I know, and that's appreciated. One of the things that we did through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ship renders that we've done, or 1,000 at this point, is we have created 2 pipelines that are very, very efficient. If a ship goes directly flight ready, like let's say if CIG releases a ship and it goes straight to flyable, I actually don't have to do any work. We have a tool now that can generate the images from the flight ready ship, which is great.
Oh, wow.
So I don't even have to touch it. If it's a concept ship, I've pretty much gotten it down now to where about an hour and a half of work for me is all it takes. And if you really think about how many ships CIG releases per year, concept ships, they may reveal maybe 2 a quarter at max, maybe.
Right.
So at the end, if you factor that up annually, that's let's say 8 ships. Concepts. It's not that bad. We're not. Now at the beginning of this process, it took a long time to do these ships. It takes several days to do one ship, but that's definitely no longer the case now. And it was the big reason we tried to solidify pipelines is so that we didn't get burned out and we didn't run into that problem. Yeah.
Question on this: are you going to be? How can I say this? The Caterpillar. Yeah. Different skins come out, right? Depending on if it happens to win ship of the year or whatever, or if it's IAE or whatever. Will this be a matter of just you pick a Caterpillar and you can pick the skin, or will there be actually distinctive ships for each one, like each version of that Caterpillar?
So right now there's just the way we've done it up to this point, and we did violate our own rule, but I'll tell you what the rule is. The rule was, and this was kind of dictated by Starlet, is that we would only do a ship if it had a unique SKU, like a ship SKU, meaning when you go to the ship store or the pledge store, that version of the ship can be purchased as a hull, right? So the best in show Caterpillar or whatever. Now, that's how CIG used to do it. Now ships have skins on them, right? So like the best in show, C2 Hercules, it's a paint. So when you buy that Best in Show, you're actually just buying the C2, the same C2 skin, and they've just included the paint. So on older ships that won the older Best in Shows, like the Reclaimer, Caterpillar, you'll be able to access the Best in Show paint. On newer ships, you won't yet. In version 2, we do want to do that. So in version 2, I'm targeting for like, you know, winter or late fall this year, which will be a bigger update when I do want to include like Best in Show skins for a lot of the newer ships and stuff. But the only reason we didn't is because those are not a unique purchasable SKU. However, we did violate that a little bit on a couple of ships, and the only reason we did that, and there, by the way, you're seeing the Crucible on several different like variants, but we did violate that rule a little bit on some fan favorite ships that we just got a lot of requests for. So, for example, the Perseus, which is a big fan, you know, favorite ship. I had a lot of people say, "Can we get the, you know, the Concierge skin, the War Thunder skin, or Thunder Cloud, or whatever it's called, included?" So I did that. And I did that for the Expanse and the Odyssey. I did those 2 Concierge paints as well. I'll probably do that for the Scorpius as well, do its Stinger paint. I just don't know if we're going to do that for every single ship. We're going to try.
Wait,
you know,
what is that? That a disco ball?
I had to stop and ask. I know there's a story behind this.
So again, we've included some Easter eggs, some joke stuff. And if you remember from, what was it, IE, you know, the 2021, I think they had, or maybe 2021, they had the Cuddy purple that they joked about, or maybe that was an April Fool's Day, I can't remember. And it was this Cuddy that had speakers and loudspeakers and stuff all on it, and a big disco ball hanging. So, you know, for some of those things, we created them. We went ahead and did them and said, well, you know, people will be able to have fun with us and stuff. So, and there's several like that. We did the 404i, which a lot of people remember was another kind of April Fool's joke or something like that before the 400i was revealed. There's a couple other ships like that. There's one Easter egg ship in there that's specifically was a request by a CIG employee, so we got that in there. So you'll see a couple of those that are kind of fun.
I'm hoping that we'll see the 404 in there somehow. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I don't know if it pops up in this video. Actually, I think I left it out because people are gonna be like, "Man, this looks like nothing." There was a Grim made a mistake. Yeah.
Or you have a picture of the 404. There's a pilot and
it's
the cockpit.
pretty much seats floating in the air. Yeah, it's pretty much.
Pops in Space asked a question, and you did this on your show a few weeks ago with the Super Cat. What about ships like that you've created on, your own concepts and ideas? Will they be included or accessible through hyper?
There's a few of them. The Super Cat's not in there, but there's a few of those kind of ships that I've kit bashed on my show. They'll make an appearance as an Easter egg ship. Like one of the big ones is the Super Liberator. I get a lot of people that still come to me to this day saying, "Send it to CIG. They need to make this." I'm like, "Don't worry, CIG's well aware of my Super Liberator," but that'll be in there. You'll be able to spawn that. I think it's like I think the real Liberator is like 120 meters long. My Super Liberator is like almost 200 or something like that. It's just a bigger version. So there's some of that.
Yeah, that was the Pop in Space question. We have one from Sigelian via Opshi. Did anyone ask what concept ship Grim is most excited to fly in game? What are you excited to fly in game?
Well,
concept.
My 3 favorite ships, my top 3 favorite ships are all concept ships. So I'll take any one of those. And actually my top 4 ships, and I'll go from number 4 down to number 1, number 1 being my absolute favorite. So obviously number 4 is the Corsair. I'm waiting on that, but we know that'll be in game for too long. The next one's the Nautilus, which I am very convinced will be coming out the end of the year and go flight ready. I am be sure to eat my words if that doesn't happen, but I really think it is. Number 2 would be the Polaris. I'm a big Polaris fan. I love the whole kind of U-boat kind of thing. But my number 1, concept ship that I can't wait to fly in the verse is my favorite Star Citizen ship, and that is the Kraken. I love everything about its design and its function, and I love a lot of the design decisions that Paul and Gavin Rothery made on that ship. So yeah, that's probably my number one.
I have a related question.
Go ahead, fastcart.
So, what is your opinion about the Kraken versus the Privateer? How do you feel about the Privateer?
Well, there's a lot of thinking going on with the Privateer versus the BMM for sure, and where that value is, especially if the BMM, if the BMM doesn't go up much in price, let's say even if it goes to $700-800, people are wondering, well, what benefit am I getting from the Privateer at $1,800, whatever it is. And that conversation kind of goes along with the Kraken and the Privateer as well. And I think we're not done. I'm kind of the mind that the Kraken is still going to get a lot of work done to it. We know that for a fact. We know John Crew said, just last year, whatever, that the Kraken was going to get a medical suite in it, which was never dictated in its ship information page. There's a lot of discrepancies with the Kraken where CIG will constantly say that it doesn't have escape pods because the ships on the deck are the escape pod. But if you read the jump point that goes through the Kraken's development, they specifically say that they redesigned the entire bridge in order to support escape pods. So what I think we're going to see is some big changes with both the Privateer and the Kraken. And I think you're going to see the Privateer become a much more valuable ship than the BMM in order to support its price. But I think what I hope they lean into is the Privateer will be more of a niche ship, and the Kraken base variant is more of a general purpose ship. I hope that's what they lean into. Mm-hmm. So,
okay. I got a part 2 to the last question we asked you about favorite ships. Wander asked, you answered the multiplayer side, but Wander asked, what's your favorite single player ship if you had to pick one?
Yeah, my favorite single player ship would probably be I'll be honest with you, I really like flying around the Anvil Arrow. It's not a concept ship, it's a flight ready one, but I really enjoy that ship. Mm-hmm. I actually didn't get one of those for a while, and when I got Starjump into Star Citizen, because he wasn't playing, and I said, you need to come check out this game. He was checking out ships, and I think one of the first ones he got was an Arrow, and I had never flown one, took it for a spin and loved it, and I still have it in. It's one of the ships that kind of never leaves my hangar, and it's always in my accessible. I've never melted it, and yeah, I really enjoy it.
Okay, cool. Hell Zuler, thank you for that follow, and Colossal,
thanks for the follow.
Thank you for the subscription of 2 gift subs. Thank you guys so much for that.
Thank you.
So our next question is from GoMap again. So can Soul Citizen be beta testers for this?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll say this, that when we do push to live, we haven't decided totally if we're going to go more to a closed testing for like a week or 2 and then open testing, or if we're just going to go straight to open testing. But if we do go to closed testing, it's going to be, it will probably be 2 groups of people that are invited to that. It'll definitely be our Patreons that have been supporting, and it will also be friends of Starjumps that have helped us promote this, let us get out there and talk about it. So obviously, people like Soul Citizens and stuff would be at the very top of that closed beta testing if we go that route.
Mind you, wait. GoMap didn't volunteer to do this show today because he was supposed to, so it's just me and Fastcart. I just want you to know that, okay?
Yeah, no. Thank you. No. There you go.
But if it all works out and Starlet feels comfortable about the the throughput that we can just push it out, we'll just push it out and get it live as soon as possible, even if it's got a few bugs in it that and by bugs, the only bugs we expect really would be, I spawned the Freelancer Max, but it's 10 meters bigger than it should be in relation to other ships, and we have to adjust that. But yeah, absolutely though, if we do close testing, Patreon supporters and friends of Starjump will definitely be in that list for sure.
Yeah, I definitely want to take part of that Endeavor mod kit thing that you were discussing earlier. That's because I'm sure. How sick of you? How sick are you of looking at some of these ships? You got to be.
I'll tell you,
some of them.
It's almost been the opposite. Me and
Really?
one of the other collaborators who was working on this, who again, his VMXEO, I can say who it is, VMXEO, who without him, this project would have been impossible. I'll tell you, we kept doing this where we would like work on a ship and then suddenly go, dang, I really want to buy this ship now. I'm like, yeah, because you're staring at it so long, you're like, I really like this ship. And then you move on to the next one. You go, you know what? I really like this one. So I'll tell you what it did to it. It allowed me to become intimately familiar with every ship in Star Citizen. So
I have a question.
Even ships I didn't necessarily want to be familiar with. But no, actually, to me, it kind of renewed my love for it, and it made me appreciate the amount of work that CIG has done. I mean, again, it's very easy to get caught up in that whole thing where you're like, they're not making enough progress, they're not doing it. But when you look at how much has been created, and this is just publicly facing, we know they got a ton of stuff they haven't showed us that's already done. It is an astounding amount of work. So when people say, but it's been in development 8 years, I'm like, yeah, no, it probably should, because there's a lot of stuff here. Yeah. There's the Super Liberator, by the way, and the Storm Whale just passed. So there's going to be a lot of fun stuff like that. So.
Question, are you going to include lore ships? We've got the, what's the ship that everybody can't think of the name of it, just flew out of my head. The Zeus. Yeah, like the Zeus. Other ships that were, like there's the version of the Comet that's based upon lore. Will those also be included in?
So we right now we're only including ships that we have the data on, right? So we can, and so to know, one thing we don't want to do is take so much of a liberty on a ship that we're really kind of making it up. We want it to be CIG's vision, because this is their work, their IP and everything. So on ships like the Retribution, the Pegasus or Panther, whatever you want to call it, and the Bengal, ships like that are technically lore ships. We're not going to be able to own them. Those will definitely be in there. And in the future, I think some of the large like king ships and drillers and stuff like that will be in. But stuff that's only been written about that we don't know the visuals probably will not be until we know.
There is one of the Zeus now. There is one of the Zeus.
Okay.
There's a photo. There's an image of the Zeus. That's the only one I can think of.
That's probably something that I would like to get into, our next bigger update. So like the version 2 or 1.5 update then,
Cool. Okay. Got Dr. Murray's question for start?
Yep. Yeah, I just want to come out. You brought this up a few questions back, but I wrote a note for myself. I forgot to bring it up. But it's almost like making your own games per se, because you're talking about having version 2 in December. It's like an expansion pack almost. So I just want to say thank you for all the work that you're putting into this.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, we've had to manage it like a real project because there's just so many parts and pieces to it, and so there had to be a lot of organization, like a project leader, which my role. So we really had to kind of treat it like that, and it's going to be a live app. It's going to be a live service that people are going to be able to go to the website and they're going to be expecting it to be up to date and have the latest ships and to constantly get new features and stuff like that. So we really kind of look at it as like a in a way it's like a product. Now we ain't trying to make money off of it, and it's going to be completely free, but
evolving. It's always evolving, basically. Just like the project's evolving, it's going to evolve.
And it's the same reason I tip my hat to sites like Fleet Yards and Starship 42 and stuff, because they have to do the same exact thing. They have to be on the ball with this stuff. And you know how it is with video games sometimes. Sometimes you dip out for a couple months if you're just not interested, and you get into something else. And with these sort of things, you really do kind of at least have one ear into what's going on with that game so that you can keep your project updated. So.
So here we have a question from Dr. Murray. Okay. Will I be able to have the Scorpius and its folded wing model mode? Because let's be honest, it looks better like that. We'll be able to. We have different modes for different ships.
Yeah. So some ships will, some ships won't. It'll sort of be us taking the temperature of like how much people want that. So I've actually heard that if we didn't plan on it with the Scorpius, but I've actually had a few requests for it to have its wings folded. And a lot of times the reason people want the different mode is for, let's say if you did a top-down view in Fleetviewer, they want to be able to have the ship in its landed folded mode so that they can like sit it on a pad to see how much room it takes up. And on launch, we won't, on our version 1 release, we won't have all the ships have separate modes. But what we're going to do is every time we do an update, we'll push more ships out that have alternate modes. Again, it won't be every ship. It'll just be some ships. That makes sense. So,
yep, that makes sense.
I would like to get a lot of the fighters, especially the small fighters, I would like to get them in a landed and unlanded state simply to be able to visualize on carrier decks a little better.
Like the Reliant and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Reliant. I know we want to do a vertical version of that, but even ships like, again, the Scorpius and even maybe eventually even things like the Cutlass series, being able to have their back engines folded down in a state. Now, I don't necessarily think that'll mean landing gears being out. It just means larger parts and pieces folded how they should so that people can get a sense of, oh, will this fit on this ship or whatever,
No, thank you.
Yeah.
So this is a question from Envoy 70. Will ship weapon be part of the ship? Be part of the viewer? Will ship weapon be part of the viewer?
Not initially, but one of our collaborators, the one who's been really handling a lot of the live stuff, really wants to do that. And his pipeline is how we would have to push the weapons out anyway. So I think the weapons will eventually be a part of it, probably in like our, we still have to have some discussions about that, but it would be great to have those in by like end of year. We'd need some time on them.
Eventually, I'll be able to get the Ares Ion in its pre-nerf and nerf form. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe. It may just be a way of visualizing the weapons like ad hoc, like just on their own, or maybe it's on the ships. We kind of have to look at what that would require. I can say one thing we definitely want to do, and me and Starlet have already had discussions about this, is in a future version, we want to allow you to change the colors of the ships to anything you want. And allow you to choose between a primary, secondary, and tertiary color. Now, not all ships support tertiary colors, but almost all of them support primary and secondary.
You may get that out before TIG get theirs out.
It is complicated. It's very complicated the way that works. But that's something we want to do. We have to test. We have a theory on how we can make that happen with not creating a lot of work for ourselves, so we have to test it a little bit more. That's a plan. We want to do that.
Quick question. I noticed one of the items you have here is a non-ship item, one of the mines, right? Are there other items like that you guys have in mind that you would be including?
Yeah, there's several actually that will be in the initial launch. This is the Firestorm Kinetics Tephra homing mine. I would like to get the other mines from the Nautilus, like the the Sentry mine and stuff. I want to get. It won't be in for launch, but this homing mine will. We also are aiming to get all the drones in the game. So on launch you will be able to spawn that Aegis repair drone, the drone that is inside the Vulcan. You'll be able to spawn player characters, you'll be able to spawn a Titan suit, you'll be able to spawn a landing pad, jump gate. There's definitely some items that are spawnable. Yeah. I think for characters, you'll be able to spawn a male or female character. Again, we're basing it just off the character models. So yeah, there's some stuff like that, and that stuff we'll add as we go. Yeah.
So a question from Synchronous 9. Marlbot Kraken or Carrier Kraken? You kind of addressed that already. You said the Carrier Kraken. That I think that's what is your preference?
I did pledge for a Kraken. I was able to get one. That was my big reward to myself one year after me and my wife sold a house, and had some play money. That was my big reward. She got an exercise bike that she wanted, and I got a Kraken. And I did buy I did buy the conversion kit. But I really do think I'll keep it as just the base Kraken. Yeah, I like the flexibility. I'm big on emergent gameplay, and the Kraken to me is the best ship for that. Like, it has the most opportunity to do interesting things that maybe CIG hasn't thought of.
Is this the jump gate here that we're looking at?
Yeah, that's the jump gate. That was in the Aegis cinematic. That's the model. I think Starlight wants to do a version of it powered on with like the vortex in the middle and stuff. So we may do a version of that with that. But yeah, that's the jump gate model. Now, CIG,
we just got rated by TV Liquid. I just want to say shout out to TV Liquid. Thank you for that. 198 viewers. Thank you. And welcome.
Awesome.
Today we're talking with Starjump GRIM about the Starjump Fleetviewer. So please continue.
Yeah. So we know CIG on jump gates. We kind of don't know where they're going with it, because originally there was going to be a jump gate to pyro. Now there's a jump point, and it's a natural phenomenon. I still think jump gates are going to exist. I think jump gates are going to be essentially meant to stabilize unstable jump points. And we've seen jump gates in various states fully complete like this. And we've also seen where they're kind of broken apart and a little bit derelict. But we thought it'd be cool to put one in here at scale. So if you were to spawn like a freelancer next to this, the freelancer would be the size of like 4 pixels across. It's pretty huge. So, yeah. That's one of the things Starlet is having to deal with on the background, or on the back end, is getting everything to scale, which is harder than you think.
Yeah, I have no doubt that it's very difficult. So this question from Oritza. A lot of people talk about holes in the ship that will be required in the future. What is ship do you think will be being required in the future? I think question. Lots of people talk about holes in the ship.
Oh, okay. What they're saying is that there's a lot of people talking about what ships don't we have, what ship roles. Yeah, what ship in the future? What do you see that CIG may produce that we haven't heard about yet? What type of ship?
Well, when I think of, if a lot of the gameplay systems CIG talks about a lot that we've seen parts and pieces of, if those gameplay systems come fully online, and I'm talking to like Death of a Spaceman, time to kill on ships, things like insurance and all that becoming a full interlocking system. What we know from that is you're gonna have to be a hell of a lot more careful when you play Star Citizen. You know what I mean? You have to be a lot more careful not to die, protect your ship, all that. So for me, one of the things that's going to be very critical in the future, especially for people that are flying big, valuable ships, or like, let's say if you're flying a Kraken, you got 20 of your crewmates on there. They've brought on board a bunch of their personal equipment, armor, weapons, gear. There's 3 or 4 ships sitting on the deck. You've now got a very valuable target, right? I think we need a ship that is really centered around forward reconnaissance, scanning, radar, but not even just that, but being able to jam radars, hack radars, all that, but almost on a capital level scale. Now we know the Polaris is the only ship that, or at least up to now, that has a capital radar in it, which I think is kind of interesting. I think it would be cool to see an E-warfare ship that is not even like a direct combat ship, just a ship that can engage, ships from an electronic standpoint and start to alter the battleground a little bit. Because if you're flying through with your fleet, and by fleet it could just be a fully loaded Kraken with maybe 2 escort fighters, you're going to be very wary of bringing those big ships out if you can't protect them, because getting that ship destroyed could be a major loss for you, both UEC and time. Could take a week for that to get rebuilt, who knows. So being able to get a better understanding of what you're flying into, I think, would be key. So that's a hole I would like to see filled in the future. On the flip side, the Legionnaire was that was kind of a hole that I didn't know we needed to fill. This sort of like direct docking port boarding ship. So it's kind of cool to know CIG is thinking about that as well. Like where, what do we need that we don't have? So
thank you, Big Black Gaming, for the 5 subscriptions.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. And Noobifier, thank you as well. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Noob.
So another question from GoMap ATL. Will the 3D models that you create be available to the community for use in other things?
So I've been hit up a lot actually for models, for imagery and stuff like that. And it's a little tricky. So one piece of software we're using that was community developed is very, very powerful. And there's discussions going along with powers that be and CIG to, on what maybe can be done there. And some of our ships were exported using that tool. So that's one thing we got to be careful about. On the other side, which is not even that big of a deal, but it's something we're trying to be sensitive to. On the other side of the fence, we have a lot of these like concept models and stuff. And normally, especially stuff that's based right off the HoloViewer models from the RSI website, normally I would be like, yeah, sure, here's the model because it's already out in the wild. It's just a model. You can get it from the RSI website. The only issue with that is that we do a lot of work to these models and ships that use proprietary techniques unique to the software we're using. So, and the software we're using is software that generally costs a lot of money. It's not like Blender where it's free to anyone. You just go download it. Like the software I'm using, Cinema 4D. I mean, it's software that's like $600 every month or whatever to reload or whatever. So even if you open the model in Blender, it would like fall apart. It wouldn't look how you're seeing it here. So you really can't get much usage out of it. Now, we've also had people contact us saying, hey, can I have all the top-down views of your ship? Because I'm going to make a game. I want to make a strategy game with them. And while I would love to do that, we have to be very careful about stuff like that because I don't want to give something away and then that person creates a paid product, which violates CIG's terms, obviously, for their IP. And we want to be very respectful and to CIG. Obviously, we love the project. We don't want to do anything to get on their bad side or to do something that wouldn't be fair and respectful. So we're being extremely careful with that.
That's a tough line to walk. I can just hear.
If someone's doing something free, like Fleetviewer, that's just out to the community, then that's a little obviously different. But, I have to be careful because a lot of times I'll get contacted by someone who's literally like, hey, I want to make a game that people buy into. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, because you told me that way, there's going to be no way I can do it. So
yeah, there's no way you can do that.
And then the other thing is we're just being careful too because our project's not even out yet. You know what I mean? It'll be out soon. We're right there. The finish line's right in front of us. But it's not out yet either. So we'll kind of address those, I think, once we get our project out and all that. So.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll probably be honest with you. It'll probably be, if we do give stuff out, it'll probably be to people we know and trust, and we know their intentions are good. So.
Thanks for the follow.
This is a funny comment from a first-time chat from Butter Bounty. They really wanted the JPEG. They could just screen rip them right now.
Yeah, you could.
That was cute. But I just want to say thank you for letting us, the Soul Citizens, use Endeavor footage that you created. So thank you. That really helped us a lot.
Yeah, and here's the thing: while you have these JPEGs, you could obviously do and kind of ad hoc something. Our ships will be using an alpha channel, okay, which for those that don't know how alpha channels work, it is essentially transparency information in an image, right? So, 255 full on white for a computer means it's visible. If something is zeroed out black, then that means the computer can't see it. So that's what creates a matte or an alpha channel, right? And so our ships have that embedded because they're PNGs in the actual app. So the reason we did that is because in the Fleet Viewer, you're going to be able to change your background. You're going to be able to change if you want to put like a spacescape back there, or if you want to upload, like your org logo or whatever. you'll have that flexibility. So, and we kind of thought about that one time. We were like, oh, what if people just like pull the images and do it their own way? But our goal was like, well, our fleet viewer should be so easy to use that you would never want to do that. it should be so convenient. And again, the thing is we're not locking anything behind a paywall. When it releases, it's released. It's fully open, and we actually are trying to make it as customizable as you can. So the goal there is that you won't have any need to do that. You'll have everything you need in the app, and it's not locked behind anything. So it's all good.
Hot Space had an interesting question. I like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Will we be able to do things like, will it fit in the ship, in the fleet viewer?
Yes, for some ships, like ships that have top decks, Liberator, Kraken, stuff like that, you'll be able to. We are looking at ways of visualizing some ships in a kind of a unique way, specifically to see, so you can play around if it fits, it sits. So for example, the Idris, that's a ship we might do a cross-section top-down view of so that people can test to see if ships will fit. Another thing we're trying to do is we're actually we're going to look into seeing if you can visualize ships with modules. And what I mean by that is we're going to look into some unique ways of visualizing maybe a Retaliator base and its modules as modules, not just as just duplicates of the ship. We're looking into that. We haven't quite landed on something yet, but we're close.
Grim, are you guys going to also provide, I know you probably will, I'm just asking for the audience's sake, provide specs for these ships when they come up, length, height, all that good stuff will come up when they pick a ship?
Yeah, that's the one thing me and Starlet are currently scoping out. We want that to be in there. I think we're trying to decide what and how much. Now, the bigger project that we are kind of this will turn into one day. Will heavily dive into that.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, not only will ships have those specs will be inherently tied to other ratings. So in this future project, you're actually going to be able to build fleets and get scores on those. So you're going to know how the total average DPS of your fleet, and you're going to be able to you'll be able to pull numbers from multiple ships and combine them to get other averages and other figures. So we will dive into that pretty heavily in the bigger next phase of this project. So
okay, this is a question from Finflood. It's already been addressed, but we had plenty of people who arrived later in the show. So they asked, will deliveries in game be available?
If it in the first version, the delivery, it'll only be stuff that's a unique SKU. So with a few exceptions, but like if you were to, a good example would be the C2 Hercules. Let's say if you spawn the C2 Hercules, it's going to spawn as the white and red Hercules. Even though there are other liveries in the game for that ship, and I really like those other liveries actually. I love that like gold bronzy one. I want to get those in. Those won't be in on launch. However, other ships will have some of their liveries in. It just sort of depends. We sort of thought that it was more important to get the first version of the Fleet Viewer out, even if we don't have every livery in the game. So, but other ships you will, like the Mole, you'll be able to spawn the Mole in 3 different liveries. I think it's Polar, the Carbon, and then the regular. So there's some ships you will be able to.
All right, thank you for that. And this is our last question. This is from Dr. Murray. Can we get start getting liveries for all the ships?
We should. I would say Starlet would really love that if we would do that. You know what? If there's an easy way to do it, I'll find a way and we'll do that.
That'll be something for an April Fool's Day project down the line.
When we develop the system to be able to change the ship colors to anything you want, I am looking into a way to apply. I don't know if this will happen. This is completely speculative, so no one hold me on this. But I am looking at ways to maybe be able to apply a decal to a ship. That's a little trickier because like a decal, so like a logo or anything like that, that's a little trickier because you have to make it appear like it's on the actual plane of the ship. So that's kind of tricky, but
I would recommend not doing that because there's going to be so many obscene decals people are going to be making.
That's to be expected, and I don't know if technically it would work. Obviously, we will have things in the Fleet Viewer like ship naming and tags and labels that you can display or not display.
That'd
and stuff.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Okay.
Well, thank you for that.
Good stuff, Grim. Yeah.
So next up we want to talk about the world citizens that be going around in the world. I didn't participate, otherwise I wouldn't be here tonight. But yeah, there's been plenty of activity around the world, especially at CRG location. Our friend the poet put out a TikTok video or a tweet earlier showing his side by side with Chris Roberts in LA. So I just want to say happy what is it? First contact day for everyone, and I hope everyone had fun. And if you can, give me one of those extra cards that they hand out. I appreciate it. After like that, Oh, can you tell us how we can support you, Graham?
Yeah. So. We have a Patreon. It's kind of new. We started about a month or so ago, and we have tiers in it all the way from $2 on up to an obscene amount that no one should ever pledge for. It goes up to 100, but we tried to do something with our Patreon that was unique in terms of the benefits. So we do a monthly 4K wallpaper that I create with all of our assets, and we tried to do something really unique. Our wallpaper for this month is a really cool like industrial one that's got all industrial ships and stuff in it, including new ships like the Expanse and stuff. And then we also do where if you hit a certain Patreon level, you can actually have a custom ship in the wallpaper, which is kind of cool. And
sorry to interrupt real quick. I just want to make sure because we don't have a link for it, but it is patreon.com/Starjump. That's you or that's someone else?
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Okay.
And then we also try to do things too, like, once you get to a certain level, you can choose a piece of merch from our merch store for free. Once you get to the highest level, you get multiple pieces of merch. You get, and one of the big things from the top levels, you actually get to create a custom livery for any ship you want, and that will go in the Fleet Viewer. We're going to have a section of the Fleet Viewer that is supporter ships. And those supporter ships that'll be a special section that you access, but it will have ships from those supporters of the project, and it's pretty cool. You can put like an org logo or your personal logo on it, as long as it's not obscene, obviously, and it'll be the colors you choose, and it'll be the ship you want, and all that.
It's just saying we got to make that disclaimer, but you got to make that disclaimer every single time.
But we've already got a couple of those supporters, and I've actually just recently finished some of those ships. One of them wanted a unique version of the Carrack that had custom logos on it and was in custom colors like orange and stuff, and that was completed for them. So we're trying to think with our tier benefits, just trying to do it a little bit unique. But and I told you guys this at the beginning of the show, but I just want to reiterate it to everyone who's watching. You absolutely do not have to donate to the Patreon for the Fleet Viewer access. Fleet Viewer will be 100% free to everybody when it launches, which will hopefully be very soon. And there will be no paywalls on it. There's not going to be like a premium version and nothing. It's all open for everyone. So no issue there. The Patreon stuff is just to help us maintain the website, costs associated with maintaining, for me to give some tokens of appreciation to the collaborators that have worked tirelessly on the project with me. It just was a lot of back end work that I'm trying to show appreciation for. So that's what the Patreon goes to. So we greatly appreciate any help and support, but obviously don't be concerned if you can't, because I know money is tight for everyone now. Once the Fleet Viewer launches, you will get full access no matter what.
Well, I want to jump in real quick and encourage you guys. If you're like me, you guys have really enjoyed the work that the folks at Starjump Station have done, whether it's their Drake video, their Aegis videos, and now this. And they have just given such stimuli to our excitement about the development of this game. So I want to say, encourage you to support them in any way you can. You know you're going to be using this Fleetviewer. Support them. And if you don't want to do it through the Patreon, they also have merchandise that you can do. And it's going to pop up in a second.
We have the dumbest merch store out there, but with the worst designed products, but it's there. It was more of a joke, but we do have it, and we've and it's kind of fun. I will say on the merch store front, now that my job with Fleetviewer is mostly done, I'm putting a lot of work into designing some really cool merch that it will be pretty unique, actually. So stay tuned for that. Mm-hmm. This is just kind of the initial stuff, but this goes to helping out Fleetviewer and sustaining the project. So
you guys,
where can people buy these if they wanted to get these?
Yeah, so you can go to, I think it's, we have a Teespring store, so it's starjump-2.creator/spring.com. I can post that too, but I'm not sure if I have link ability, but that's something I can definitely.
I'll just put it in stream alert or DM it to me, and then I can post it.
Okay,
but
cool.
And also, don't forget the patreon.com/Starjump if you want to go to the Patreon one.
Yeah. But yeah, so that all goes to help supporting our projects. We put it directly back into the projects again. We as people are very fortunate in the world and doing fine and have jobs. We can put the free time into doing large projects like this. But again, there's a lot of collaborators and stuff on this project that are not in the fortunate positions we are, and it's great to be able to hand something back to them. For example, a couple of the modelers recently, I sent them all Amazon gift cards, for $100 each and I want to do more for them and keep doing more for them because they've just done an astounding amount of work. For example, for the Endeavor, our biodomes, you're going to be able to zoom right down on those and see plant life and everything in there. And to model all that stuff out was an incredible amount of work. And the people that worked on this did this completely free. They did it just for the love of Star Citizen, the love of the community. So, I'm trying to pay them back any way I can.
Understandable. Believe me, we understand. Listen, shout outs to Ender. Shout outs to Starlit, shout outs to Grim for all the hard work that they've done. Team Starjump, you guys check them out on Friday nights when they're streaming as well. They've been gracious and allowed us to use many of their graphics and animations to supplement and help our show. And you guys have enjoyed those as well. So, Grim, you want to say thank you from the whole Soul Citizens team. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Even for being here today to give us some greater insight about this, because we're excited about this Fleetviewer, as we are with the other ones, but we're definitely looking forward to seeing what you guys are going to produce here with this.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I'll just say one more time, I know I've kind of said this a lot over the last few months, but we really, really are close. If I had to put something down in stone, it's going to be this summer. It's coming very soon. All my work is done. I actually haven't worked on the Fleetviewer in like 2 months now. So to give you a little, it feels great. It feels really good actually. And you're gonna start seeing our Starjump Station show get back more on schedule now because the Fleetviewer hard work is done.
Well,
and
you've learned from Chris Roberts. Don't give any dates. You've learned that from Chris Roberts. No. Don't give any dates. So it'll get here when it gets here, right? It's ready when it's ready.
But it's very, very close, and we're aiming for its release to be very polished and feel like a finished product. So very soon.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, we're going to shill our stuff now. For those of you who want to support us.
You want me to take over?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I'm wearing one of our fine shirts right now. They come in different colors, but we sell t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, hats, mugs, gamepad, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So definitely visit our merch store. It should be down below on the Twitch page. So we appreciate it with that. Also, stay tuned to our other shows. On Thursday we have Soul Talk on youtube.com/SoulCitizen, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UTC, where we talk about what's going on in the community. Mostly we could cover SCL or ISC and ISC, and cover some of the that the community put out during that week. Also on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UTC, we have Soul Voices on YouTube.com/SoulCitizen. We will talk about also that's what's going on in the community, but we focus on Spectrum, Reddit, and sometimes and most times the industry as a whole. So check us out for that on Saturday. And then next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, midnight UTC, I have our next Soul Citizen episode. I talk about indigestion. We talk about food, drugs, stuff, and because Griffin wanted me to find this out, pooping.
It has to be talked about.
I didn't say pooping. I said poop. I said poop. You put it in plural. I said poop.
So take us out for next Sunday for that show. So it should be a fun show. Again, I want to say thank you to Grim, Starjump GRIM, for joining us and talking about this Starjump Fleetviewer. We have all the links in Twitch chat, so please check this out. Check them out. Yeah, so I appreciate that. So
thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for Griffin for being here and running the show. So thank you for that. I guess we're going to raid. I'm going to raid Birch 25. So hopefully send them our love and joyous occasion from Soul Citizen. Mm-hmm. So I guess with that, we're done. Any final word, girl?
Nope. We'll hopefully see you guys next week. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. And as always, peace, love, and soul. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, everyone.